So this will be when we're doing that.
Yeah.
We'll
All
just go over it. Okay. Well, here we go. Welcome to History According to Hollywood.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
I'm Dustin,
I'm Kyle, the woohoo guy.
the woohoo guy.
Yep.
And this is our first episode.
Yes, it is.
We're ready to go.
I'm sure you can't tell. We sound so polished and ready.
I think we're ready to go.
Sure. I mean, I found my iPad, so that was step 1 through 5.
Step 1, watch the movie.
Step 2, don't fall asleep during the movie.
I had to watch it in 2 parts.
Did you?
Yeah.
Because it's so long.
It was a long movie.
It's like 2.5 hours.
Well, I mean, yeah. After
rough.
work, it's
After
late.
work.
I'm old now.
You know what? Don't give me that crap. I drove back from Rolla after standing in a store asking people about Windows for 7 hours and watched that movie in one fell swoop. All right?
Whatever.
A single swoop.
A single swoop?
There was not multiple swoopage, just the one swoop. That's
all
all it
right.
took.
Well, it took 2 swoop for me.
That's why I have the master's degree, baby.
That's why I do not.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways,
Back to the podcast.
Today, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about Gladiator, the Ridley Scott movie from, 2000?
2000.
With Russell Crowe and his buzz cut.
The winner of 5 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Leading Actor.
I did not know that. That's
And
really
nominated for a lot more, too.
Cool. No way.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I
Lots
know
of
it has like an 8.6 on IMDb when I looked it up to find where it was available.
Currently, on IMDb, it says it is ranked like number 36 of like most decorated movie.
Whoa.
So, I mean, number 36 out of how many movies have been made?
Oh,
in
yeah,
history?
like hundreds of thousands
Yeah,
probably.
we'll cover them all.
No, we
Yeah.
won't. I have a certain life expectancy, man.
All right, whatever. All right. So, yeah, we have Gladiator, directed by Ridley Scott, starring Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix. And so basically, we're going to get
Wait,
into
was
this.
that Joaquin Phoenix or
Joaquin-
Walking Phoenix? Like a
Walking-
phoenix walking among us.
A walking Phoenix.
We're real
Later-
white. Sorry.
Later going to be a joking Phoenix.
Oh, Lord. There's no history for that movie. Can't watch it. Sorry.
We could find a way. Yeah. All right.
As opposed to running Phoenix. You know, that's
a
what he
running
does when he
Phoenix.
gets the Oscar.
Or a crawling Phoenix.
Maybe. I think he does crawl in the movie at some point.
At some point, yeah.
Probably after
He
gets
does a lot of
stabbed.
walking. Does he
He
ever
does.
run?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if emperors do run. Like,
Kind
there's
of a-
no need.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
Like,
he's
you're in
too
charge.
proper.
Like, you can't be late. You
Can't, yeah.
Yeah.
No. And that'd just be embarrassing. It wouldn't look very
No.
empowering
Not
for him
really.
to be running.
Anyway.
All right. So, what, where are we starting? You want me to start with the opening titles?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so the opening titles, and we kind of wanted to, we kind of wanted it. Ridley Scott kind of wanted to keep it fairly brief.
When he asked us.
When
you
he
know?
asked us, yeah, he says, "Hey, what do you guys want?"
When we were 2, we let him
were-
know.
Yeah. So, it says Roman Empire stretched from Africa to northern England. A quarter of the world's population lived under rule of the Caesars. So, for the win, we are in 180 A.D. Emperor Marcus, help me with this.
Aurelius.
Aurelius.
Marcus Aurelius.
His 12-year campaign against the barbarian tribes of Germania.
Yeah, so that's actually the first little historical tidbit is it's 14 years.
Oh,
And it's multiple campaigns, and it's only later that we consider them all the same
really?
thing. Yeah, well, I mean, like, Romans and Roman scholars are not like, these are the Marcomannic Wars or whatever. It was historians literally like, wow, these are like 7 wars all against the same people.
Oh, okay.
We're going to
okay.
call them, for our own sanity, the Marcomannic War.
So it's all considered one campaign together, but it actually took place in
Yeah,
different
like
strides.
it's like World War II has Europe and the Pacific and North Africa. That's the Marcomannic Wars. They're all against the same tribes, but they happen in various places.
Okay.
Ish. That's not a perfect,
That's fair. So, so that's where we are. That's when we are. A couple things from the scene that I thought was really cool. One of the first things they say is, people should know when they're conquered. So they're up against.
I found it on the web. My Siri has found something on the web. Gladiator. People should know when they're conquered. Congratulations, you got that word for word.
I got it right. I got it
Word
right.
for word.
I mean, I wrote it down as I was watching the movie.
Siri, go away. That didn't work. It did work. Holy shit.
So people should know when they're conquered. And I think that was really interesting. You also see a very interesting image of the messenger being sent back headless, and the leader of this barbarian tribe holding said head.
The
of
guy who
this
looks
messenger.
like a WWE wrestler with fur, right?
Yes.
Because he like shakes his warhammer above his head.
Yeah. Very for barbaric, I guess they were pretty spot on with that.
Yeah, so the funny thing is that like barbarian in Roman terms is just anybody who's not Roman or part of the Roman Empire. So there's not the long-haired, unwashed connotation at the time that we put with it now. So like Egyptians are barbarians.
Okay.
And, like Spaniards are barbarians, and people from North Africa or like Carthage were barbarians. Like it's literally just, and that comes from Greek culture even before Rome. But if you're not Roman, you're a barbarian.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
So a quarter of the world's population lived under the rule of Rome, essentially.
Yeah, I'd say that's close. Because at the point of Marcus Aurelius, Rome has all of France, all of the Iberian Peninsula, which is Portugal and Spain, like all of North Africa, most of the coastal Middle East, Italy, a lot of the Balkan states, Turkey, a lot of it. So it's England. It's a big place. Like there's a good, I don't know if that's exact, but yeah, that's not a false statistic. Like there's a crap ton of people in the Roman Empire.
Okay. So that leads me into kind of the next topic that I wanted to talk about, which is why? Why is they say whenever they're about to charge the tribe, they say strength and honor. But what is the motivating factor here?
I mean, for the soldiers, it's they pay you, and if you don't fight, they'll just kill you. But for Rome, this specific war, the barbarian tribes started, if I remember right, and if my quick Wikipedia search did not lead me astray. I can't remember exactly why, but at this point, Rome is so big that it's not as willing to start shit as it used to be, but it's a massive militarized power. So if you cross the Danube and kill people, they're going to slap you back across it.
Gotcha. So kind of protecting their land. Anything that's considered an enemy needs to be driven away.
Yeah, and Rome is real big on like the best defense is a good offense. So most of these wars start as like, oh, we're defending Rome. And they're like, and while we're defending Rome, we're going to go take where you came from. That way you can never come from it ever again. Yeah. It's hard to be a Germanic tribe if we just eliminate Germania.
There you go.
They don't. Spoiler alert. They never do. Well, it's...
We're not to the end of the movie yet.
Well, that's not the end of the movie. That's like
that's
the
not
end
what
of that
the movie's
scene.
About.
Look, fun fact, Rome never gets past the Danube River in Germany, Austria. That is always the northeastern frontier of Rome.
Okay.
So they never, ever, ever bring the barbarian tribes fully to heel.
So whenever the events of this movie take place, Rome is as big as it's ever going to be.
Close. I think it gets a little bigger under this guy named Diocletian about 100 years later, but it's close to its peak, and you could argue it's the strongest it's ever going to be, like economically, militarily.
Okay, that's fair. So kind of speaking into what we're doing here, Ridley Scott talked about experts' opinions on accuracy of the war depiction, specifically during the scene whenever the Romans dip their arrows down into like a trench of fire. And he's like, yeah, they probably didn't do that, but it made sense. So a lot of this, he knew he was taking liberties with, but he was doing it because he's like, it's all practical, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I thought that was pretty interesting that he was saying like, yeah, these things, these things had to have happened. Just like a little bit later, you have two Romans that are back to back, and he turns and he almost kills his own man. He's like, well, that had to have happened.
Well, yeah, because you're not going to you're not going to check your rear view mirror and be like, how close is my nearest guy? Like, if you back in somebody in battle, you're going to swing first and ask questions later.
That makes sense.
I would assume. Yeah, I mean, it's not like... So, as I said in our little warm-up when we were talking about the podcast before filming the podcast, like, Ridley Scott, to my knowledge, and I'm going to preface this with, I have a master's in world and American history, so I'm not an expert on Rome. I'm just good at like finding historical facts, and I know how to research and all that jazz. He's really, really good at creating an accurate world. It's that he doesn't make documentaries and he doesn't make movies that he claims are fully based on real events. So the story of Gladiator is pretty fabricated, but from what I could tell, like the Rome that he built to put the movie in is pretty solid. Yeah. And the fact that the battle begins with the soldiers in actual formation is good because we have this idea that before Napoleon or before like guns, everybody just ran at each other with swords, and that's not true. Like there have always been formations. It's why you could have these massive battles, and then you look them up on Wikipedia, and you're like, there were 20,000 people in it, and only 700 people died. And it's like, well, yeah, because there was a shield wall of 20,000 people. Like,
yeah. Interesting. Okay, so after the battle, Russell Crowe has been, or Maximus has been successful. And then we meet Commodus.
Yeah.
So we have our protagonist, and we meet our antagonist.
Yeah. So Commodus is a real guy. Like, he exists, and he is Marcus Aurelius' son. Preface to maybe jump a question you might ask later. So he's already technically emperor by the time this movie is taking place.
Interesting.
So Marcus Aurelius makes Commodus co-emperor when he's about 14 years old, give or take, for about 4 to 6 years before Marcus Aurelius dies. Commodus is the co-emperor so that he can, air quote, learn how to be a good emperor, end air quote. In reality, Commodus is a schmuck, but he's a different type of schmuck than he is in the movie, which makes it really interesting. Like, he's equally a bad person, but he's a different type of bad person.
Nice.
In actual history than he is in the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the movie, he's kind of he doesn't look good. He looks like he's on the verge of death about the entire time.
Yeah, he looks like really like that really stereotypical like mentally unstable dude that is gonna shoot up a school. That's like that's Joaquin Phoenix.
Well,
Gladiator.
I mean, because he was prepping for Joker.
Like, he looks like he's gonna walk into the Senate and just start shooting fire arrows just out of nowhere. Yeah.
Right. I don't think it'd be as successful as modern day. You know,
you don't have a 30-round carrying capacity on a crossbow. From what I
Yeah.
understand.
No, I mean, that would have been a game changer back then, though.
would have been. Shane was going to plug a Key and Peele skit about the First Amendment that anybody who is unfortunate enough to listen to this podcast should go watch right now instead of finishing this.
Well, just pause it. Come back
Just
to
pause it, come back.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so he's a real guy. He is already technically emperor, and he does. Another part about Commodus is, from what I understand, he does actually serve as a general. So, like, he's not like great, but he's a competent fighter and a competent military leader. Like, he's not the sniveling, like, physical weakling that Joaquin's Phoenix Commodus is, which again is just interesting because it's like Ridley Scott took Commodus and the fact that he's trash and he just turned him into more plot convenient trash.
Right.
Which I think is cool because, like, you still walk away with like, wow, the son of Marcus Aurelius sucked ass, and he did, just different,
just differently.
Yeah.
So that brings me to the next thing of I really like the relationships that those three men have. So but there's a great line in it that he says your faults as a son are my failures as a father.
Yeah.
Which I think just sums up that relationship perfectly. And I do believe was actually added. It was not part of the script.
Yeah, Richard Harris, the actor, I think he died like right after Gladiator because he's in Chamber of Secrets and Sorcerer's Stone for Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But he was, from all intents, like, he's a great actor. So that doesn't surprise me that he would just put that in there.
Another thing is that everybody in this movie just does so well.
Yeah,
in their roles.
It's a star-packed movie. Like, they brought the heat, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I really like their dynamic, and then you also have the dynamic between Commodus and Maximus, and it's just pure jealousy. And I think Maximus he knows that Commodus is jealous of him and wants to be him and is envious of his courage and his accomplishments, but Maximus does not want, which almost takes me out of the character in a little bit because he's so I don't want your position, even though you have all the power. I don't want any of that. I want to go home to my farm.
Yeah, I think that, so Maximus, from what I can tell, isn't really based on anybody real. He's just like the classic like noble soldier trope that you have. I think expecting any general in the height of the Roman Empire to say no to being the emperor is a leap.
That's kind of
just because they are. I mean, at the time, like, they're rich, they're powerful, and they're like fully in charge. There's no checks and balances. Like, you are the dude. And I think it's also like, if you hear a whining sound, it's my sister's dog is our studio audience today, and he's very upset that I'm trashing Gladiator. Apparently, RG. Get over it. Hey, it worked. Okay. Anyway, so the thing about Maximus is that in theory he answers to the emperor. right? And Marcus Aurelius is a really strong emperor, so he probably does. In real life, though, the general usually commands complete loyalty of his legion because Roman generals do fight, not maybe like Maximus does, probably not frontline, but they do fight. They are there. Most of them started as centurions and moved up the ranks. Not all of them, but the good ones. So if he'd have told his men, hey, screw Commodus, we're burning Rome to the ground, they'd have been like, okay. Whether or not they could have done that without being stopped by the Praetorian Guard or whatever, that's a different question. But this idea that he would just let this crazy man take over Rome, knowing that he has a seasoned, well-trained, well-equipped, kick-ass army at his back, probably not a thing that's going to happen.
So that may be kind of the reason that Commodus knows I have to take him out.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a guy like that, you would assume that he wanted to be emperor, or at the very least, he didn't want you to be emperor. So yeah, I mean, as awful of a thing as it is to say, like, if I'm Commodus, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just making sure he dies.
You have to.
Like, I'm not dragging him out to the middle of the forest, right?
But why his family?
I'm just accusing him of killing the old frail emperor because nobody has any freaking idea. Like, they don't have fingerprints in Rome. I'd be like, hey, this jackass, he killed my dad. Kill him. And my Praetorian Guard would be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you could
and then he doesn't escape.
Around.
And there's no movie Gladiator.
Yeah.
And I rule Rome. Yep. So that wouldn't have been a very exciting movie.
No, not as exciting. So we get to where obviously the betrayal happens, and Commodus kills his father or his uncle. Marcus Aurelius. Okay. Yeah. That's his father.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I got confused earlier.
So here's the thing. All right. So Marcus Aurelius is Commodus's father.
Yes.
Okay. Commodus is the kid's uncle. To keep the
yes. No,
okay.
Yeah.
No, okay, I thought
that.
All right. So we were both right. I just thought you were wrong.
Yeah. No, you're good. Okay.
I mean, I have like 2 decades of friendship to back me up on that one. So
usually you're usually right. So we get to the he kills his father. He sentences Maximus to death, and he obviously escapes.
Right.
It's a setup for an action movie.
I'm gonna just go out and say it. Like, if you got cut that deep in the shoulder in Rome and didn't receive medical attention, you died.
Right. Like
if it's that infected that you need maggots on it, you don't make it to the desert, bro.
And then what was it packed with?
That I don't know. I
never figured that out.
It was probably more like to stop the bleeding. Like, I think the maggots ate the dead flesh, and then the guy just like packed it to shut up.
That makes sense.
Pardon my glucose alarm. It's telling me that it can't read me because I turned airplane mode on my phone. Anyway, the happy diabetic is back. So, yeah, like it's that thing. And another thing I'm going to point out that Gladiator is not the only movie that does this. Did you notice that armor means nothing in this movie?
Yeah,
you can wear as much armor as you want. It doesn't matter. Like,
when he goes out in the Colosseum, and he's just like, I'm just gonna stab these guys that are covered from head to toe. He's got like the little chest thing on, and that's about it.
And it doesn't mean shit.
Nothing.
Like, I have this piece of steel on me, and the guy can just stab through it. It's like,
but that guy getting stabbed in the foot,
that was brutal. That was a good combat move, though.
That was good. That was good. Yeah.
I also find it funny that he has like 3 tigers jump on him all at once, and he doesn't get any scratches.
Let's get to that scene, because I have some behind the scenes stuff on that I want to get to. But I want to make sure that we're keeping it
kind of sort of linear.
Yeah. So anyway, so
yes, arm cut bad would definitely have had to at least have his arm amputated. I would think. I'm not a doctor, but I just feel like it's 180 AD. They don't know about germs. Like, if your arm gets infected and you're by yourself, you die.
So his ride home, that scene, was shot in 3 different countries.
Whoa!
It was shot in England, California, and Tuscany.
Dang!
In 3 different places. So that was a hell of a ride home.
I like how they keep it vague where his home is. Because I think like that's Ridley Scott understanding that that's not important for the story.
It's not.
Like, he's a Spaniard. Like, that he's from the Spanish
because they call him Spaniard.
But that doesn't. If he's a general, he probably owns a villa.
Yeah.
In Italy somewhere. Be my guess. Or maybe like France. But
double whammy. Your wife and kid are dead.
Yeah.
They died probably in a horrible way.
Yeah.
And boom, you're a slave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Double whammy. So this guy went from next emperor to slave.
Yeah.
Yeah. About a bit of a fall from grace as you can have.
Yep.
And then, so he's not just a regular slave, though. He's not working on a farm or a field or anything. He's a fighting slave.
Yeah, he's a gladiator.
He's a gladiator.
Yeah, and that's interesting because like most gladiators were slaves. I honest to God don't know if they'd have just taken a random like half dead guy out of a burning farm and been like, he looks muscly, we're gonna make him a gladiator. Because most gladiators are prisoners of war. Generally, just because they already know how to fight. So, like, why would I train some schmuck who might be like a bread maker.
Yeah.
When I could just steal a Nubian like warlord and make him fight in my Colosseum.
Though his training, could you call it training?
Yeah, that was another thing. Like gladiators did get trained because the longer your gladiator lived, the more money you can make off of them.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't care if they died, but
Like a
you didn't
streak.
send like an unless it was part of the gimmick of the fight.
Like a cannon fodder.
Yeah, like you didn't
know.
like buy 30 slaves and then train 5 of them and then be like, all right, the other 25 of you, good luck, have God bless.
Yeah. So anyways, one of the gladiators, Ralph.
Yeah, the big
Moeller?
German-ish dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Friend of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, he looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
He does kind of look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But he was a friend. He was a friend of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
I thought that was interesting.
He seemed roid ragey.
And yeah, he doesn't look very natty. He looks like he's on the sauce. He's a big boy.
He's a big man.
And then whenever it started to get to the violence of what these guys are doing inside the Colosseum, Ridley Scott says you wouldn't actually want to see what they did inside Colosseums. So how bad we talking?
It's a blood sport, man. So like, and again, I preface this with I am by no means a gladiatorial expert, but just like it's bad because it's all about how crazy of a fight you can put together.
Mhm.
Now that not all of them ended in death, I will say that. Because again, they're assets. It's kind of like that myth that, and I'm going to preface this with like slavery is wrong, slavery is bad. But it's that myth that like the vast majority of Southern plantation owners just killed their slaves for no reason. You didn't do that. Now, they punished the crap out of them. It was awful. Super human rights abuse. But you didn't just send cannon fodder into the Colosseum because it cost you money to get it.
It's a
And-
business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to make yourself money. So most of them were trained somewhat. And if you fought well, you could be saved by the umpire. The crowd thing that he does, it happens, but it's rare. There's usually like an actual judge for the fight.
The crowd thing meaning
With the thumbs down or the thumbs
so
up.
he decides do they live or die.
Yeah, the emperor can do that, but the emperor doesn't watch every gladiator game.
Right,
you know?
right.
So
And we don't even get to the Colosseum where the emperor is until later on. He has like a smaller stage.
yeah, although I do like that they start like that because at the peak of gladiator fights, which is roughly when this movie takes place, they're everywhere. It's like stock car racing. Like there's NASCAR and then there's the dudes who race stock cars in the dirt.
Yeah.
That's kind of what gladiator fighting is. There's the Colosseum and then there's like forums and marketplaces
It's
everywhere.
the white trash of NASCAR.
kind of. It's a similar thing. You're all yelling at like loud noises and
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of wine, a lot of bets being made.
But I mean, yeah, as far like Ridley Scott's not wrong. Like as far as like gore, I mean, it's real weapons, it's real fighting, it's real people getting killed, and people love it.
So kind of mirroring the different levels of the Colosseum and where these guys are fighting.
Yeah.
One of the things that he talked about was he wanted to paint a personal story on a giant canvas.
Yeah.
So you have the story of Rome, but it's all about one guy.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of brings to everything that you can be nobody, and you can be a slave in these times, but to you everything's it's your life. That's all you have. So when it talks about, and there's definitely a theme of mortality in this movie, then it kind of talks about it doesn't matter if it's just one person and how small of a part of society that they are. To them, everything matters. It's all they have. So I like how it kind of mirrors that. And then we get to the Colosseum. And so is it the only place called the Colosseum? How do we differentiate these?
So again, I don't know what they would have called it like when the Roman Empire was happening, but it is the Colosseum. It's okay. It's like the Eiffel Tower. Like there's models of the Eiffel Tower, but when you say the Eiffel Tower, you think
it is like the Bass-Pro
Pyramid. And there. I mean, I'm sure there are Colosseums other places, but it's huge and it's literally a commission project by an emperor who name is forgotten. But it's built in like 79 AD, I think. So at this point, it's an institution. Like it's 100 years old.
Yeah.
And it does hold so many people.
And they said in
Vespasian. It's built under Emperor Vespasian. About 80 AD is when it's done. And it is an incredible testament to Roman engineering.
Another incredible testament. The proprietor of the Colosseum is played by a guy named David Hemmings.
Okay.
he walks out, and I have been told those eyebrows are real.
Wow.
And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you just need to look up Cassius
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
Gladiator. But
I mean,
those eyebrows are legendary.
oh yeah.
So, anyways, so the Colosseum, what it says, 300 feet tall, roughly.
Yeah,
The walls.
probably. I'm trying to look up some stats, but I will say that the ironic thing about the Colosseum is that it is a blood sport arena built on the spoils taken during one of the Jewish wars against Rome. So this is a short segue. There's a bunch of rebellions led by Jewish militia against the Roman Empire, specifically in Jerusalem. The first time Rome goes in and shit kicks them, which is just the Roman thing. You know, somebody rises up, they kill a lot of people, and then you salt and burn them. They
seems to be what happened for a while.
They use all the wealth that they take from Jerusalem to build the Colosseum.
Nice.
So it is literally like you are taking money from killing people and turning it into a building where you kill more people.
That seems almost
like
satanic.
the most Roman thing I've ever heard in my life. Yeah.
That's wild. Okay, so something else. We're about to get to a couple of the big scenes coming up towards the end of the movie. So
the Colosseum is 1,943 years old, by the way, which is just insane.
That is pretty insane.
It's 600. So it's kind of a fun fact that I just remembered. Based off this little stat I'm reading. So Roman feet and like our English measurement feet are slightly different because a Roman foot is like an actual foot, if I remember correctly. It's like
whose foot?
I don't know.
Because that makes a big difference.
Right? Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. But anyway, they're not the full 12 inches. I think they're like 10 or something. But it is 650 feet, 15 feet long, 510 feet wide. The outer wall is 157 feet tall.
Wow.
So it is, and this, again, I cannot overstate this. This is a time where, like, the Imperial Palace probably had 2 floors. So this is a time where, like, 40, 50 feet tall buildings are freaking crazy.
But how many other buildings had 2 floors?
I mean, so...
Was that pretty common?
Yeah.
That wasn't
common.
Like
I don't know, man. I'm not a construction historian or an architectural historian. I do know, though, that, like, the average person lives in a hovel. So, yeah.
Nice.
So, like, it's not like... Think how impressive stadiums are today, right? Like, you go to Arrowhead or, like, MetLife Stadium, you're like, holy crap. Okay, do that, but, like, you don't live in, like, a 2,400 square foot house with air conditioning. You live in, like...
a tent.
Yeah, the 2 steps above a tent. You live in, like, a stick shack.
A nice tent.
Like, you live in the Roman countryside in, like, maybe a stucco, like, 500 square foot room. You go to the city where 1 million people live in 180 AD. Which is insane. Anyway. Yeah, it's a St. Louis. You go to St. Louis, right? A St. Louis-sized city at a time where the global population is not quite 1 billion people, I don't think, or maybe right at 1 billion. A single billion people. You go to a city of 1 million people and you see this 157-foot tall building that people are hacking themselves apart into, and it has Roman deities carved into every, like, orifice.
Right. I thought that was something interesting was the outside wall. It was like statues and every part of it just looked to be decorated.
Oh, it is like a testament to imperial might, for sure.
Yeah. So we get to where Maximus becomes kind of a legend in the Colosseum. He has a couple of really good fights, and he comes down face to face with Commodus.
Yep.
And we set up. We finally, set up. This is where we've been leading to.
It's an amazing scene, especially because, spoiler alert, Commodus ganks him like before he even gets into the arena.
Right. So later on when they set up the fight, like, you'll actually challenge me, but he has the opportunity. Mm-hmm. He has the opportunity to kill Commodus right there when he first walks up.
Yeah.
And the amount of restraint, you see him bend down and pick up a arrowhead.
Yeah.
And the amount of restraint that he shows, not only because the child is there, Commodus's nephew,
right,
is there,
Lucius Verus,
but also, he's got the crowd support, and this kind of goes back to there's a little bit later or another tone and another aspect to the movie that's Marcus Aurelius was talking about making Rome a republic.
Okay, yeah, so that's my first, like, bullshit alert in this movie, is that's not a thing. Okay, like, so the Roman Republic exists for a really long time. So Rome, like Western Rome, the Rome that we think of as Rome, lasts for right at 1,000 years, give or take. A solid half of that, it's ruled by the Roman Republic. And then Julius Caesar happens because the Republic is decrepit and old and not doing his job. And he takes over, and then his adopted nephew, or his nephew who's his adopted son or some crap like that, Octavian, becomes Emperor Augustus, and he starts the imperial order. The Senate is there, and it exists, but it's a status thing, you know?
Right.
It's not... Okay, it's like if our president was a king and we kept the Senate. That would be... It's very similar to like what that would...
You guys matter. You totally matter.
You matter.
You really don't.
Like, I'm going to ask your opinion, but I really don't give a shit
But
about
I'm going to tell you what you're going to say first.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to listen to your opinion, but
Right.
you can have one.
Which I think they kind of talked about in the film. I mean,
the Senate's just... It's powerless is too strong of a word, but it's very much like not a thing that people listen to because the emperor can just override him and there's no consequences.
This movie's already quite a long film, and if they were to really dive into the political side of it, it would probably just go a little bit too long. Rather watch people fight in the Colosseum.
And the thing about Marcus Aurelius is like he really has he would have had no reason to think that the Republic should come back because there are 4 emperors before him who are really, really good at their job, and he is, by Roman standards, really, really good at his job. So there's been like 150 years where, like, of course we don't need a Senate.
Why would we?
And he kind of breaks it because starting with, oh man, I always forget. 4 emperors before him. It's Antonius Pius, I think. Before Antonius Pius, it's Hadrian, Vespasian, and Trajan, or something like that. There's 5 good emperors, basically. In all of Roman history, there are maybe 10 good emperors, and 5 of them happen back to back.
5 in a row.
5 in a row. It's like you're lucky. You win the Powerball. Life is good. Your life expectancy is probably 40 instead of 30 because there's no civil wars. Oh yeah, that's great. It's also part of this thing called the Pax Romana, which is like 250 years. Quote unquote Roman peace. That's a crap title. They were killing each other. They just won all their wars, and they weren't killing a lot of people outside of their own borders. But he breaks the tradition, which is just because the guy's your son doesn't mean he gets to be emperor. So
there you go.
The reason the good emperors happen is because they all make a conscious effort to choose who they think will be the best emperor after them.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Aurelius, for reasons unknown, seems to think that his douchewad of a son, who everybody knows is a jackass, right? Like, it's not a secret. Like, it's not like he's a good son who turns into a bad emperor. Like, he is a dick. He just is. And Marcus Aurelius is like, yeah, this guy's fine. He's my son. He'll rise to the occasion. Everybody's like, no, he won't. He's like, well, I don't give a shit. I'll be dead and I'm the emperor. So, deal with it.
I can do what I want.
And that's what happens.
And
he dies and Commodus becomes ruler. And everybody's like, wow, look at that. The dick's a dick. Crazy.
Wow. No one expected that.
Quacks like a duck, walks like a duck. It's probably a duck.
Probably. So we set up, we are kind of setting up to where in the film, that's Maximus's plan, is to be smuggled out, go get his army, come back, take over, and restore it as a republic. That's the plan here. Obviously, I guess in real life and in the film, that does not happen.
I mean, I don't think it even was a thing that was ever okay, I can't say that. Rome lasted a long time. I would not be surprised if somebody somewhere was like, we should bring the Republic back.
We should bring the Republic.
But we don't have any documented proof that anybody with any actual power thought that. In real Roman history, it's very possible, well, that happened a lot. But the dude went and got his army, and then he became emperor.
Right.
For however long it took for the next badass with a bigger army to come and kill him.
But Maximus doesn't want that. He wants his farm. He wants his family.
Yeah, well, that's good for Maximus. But, like, if he's a Roman general who's in charge of an entire legion, like, Papa's going to take the city, right?
Yeah, there's that.
Or even if he's
Hollywood
not taking the city,
in.
he might go home, but he'd be like, okay, this is now my own kingdom, and you can jump all the way off.
Rome is now all farm.
Yeah, Rome is now mine. I am Rome.
I am Rome.
Romus Maximus, if you will.
So, his plan is foiled by Commodus being Commodus, threatening a child.
Yeah.
His poor sister being forced to give up Maximus's plans.
Yeah. Hey, fun fact: Commodus actually kills his sister and his nephew during his reign. Like,
does he really?
Life. Yeah. So there's like, okay, he's a dick, right? There's an assassination plot that we're like, historians are pretty sure his sister tries to have him assassinated. It fails, and so Commodus is like, cool, well, my sister did that, so you're all dead now. And he exiles them, and then within like 9 months, he sends somebody out to kill them.
I like how there's a two-step thought process there. I exile them, and then a little bit later, he's like, that's just not enough.
Hey, man, they didn't have eBay back then. Like, it's not like he could go to Craigslist and be like, hey, who's a good people exterminator?
Check on Facebook. Is she suffering enough?
Is she suffering enough? Like, how bad is this isolation?
Right.
It's also the thing about, like, exiling people is that Rome's a big place with a lot of armies, and so if he sends her to Egypt, Egypt has its own legion.
Right.
So, like, I don't know where he sent her, but wherever he sent her was probably not far enough away. And he was like, oh my God, she's going to get an army. She's going to kill me because I'm a bad
She's
emperor.
gonna come back.
So you kill her first.
Yeah.
It's like, you know,
Paranoia.
you sank my battleship. Like,
Yeah.
you don't sit around waiting. You call your shots.
Call it. So here we are. I said we would talk about the Tigers, and then I skipped right past it. So we're gonna backtrack for just a quick second.
I'll make it really easy. There were tigers in the Colosseum.
So, but the cool thing is here. So in the film, there's a scene where Maximus is fighting. Russell Crowe, not a stunt double, is fighting. He's thrown to the floor. The bottom of the floor opens up, and a tiger runs out. That was not trick photography. The tiger was legitimately just like feet away from Russell Crowe.
That is both terrifying and like really accurate because the Colosseum had underground compartments in it, and that's exactly what they would do is they just let a tiger out through a trap door and be like, have fun.
That is super interesting. And a tiger actually took down a stuntman while they were filming, like hopped on him, took him down. But he was not harmed, according to Ridley Scott. If that's not true, don't blame me.
I don't know how you're not harmed when like a 1,000-pound cat jumps on you, but whatever.
Maybe it's just little pounds. Just little pounds.
It's a little
Hey man, what are you doing?
It's 11 pounds.
Yeah.
I do know that like Rome was so obsessed with putting animals in the arena that like environmental scientists are somewhat convinced that they led to the extinction of several local species.
Really?
So, okay, actually they did lead to the extinction of the Barbary elephant from what we know. Or not the Barbary elephant. Okay, there used to be more subspecies of elephants.
Oh, okay. So some type of elephant.
Maybe it's the Carthaginian. Rome killed an elephant species.
Gosh.
Between like
Rome.
the 3 wars with Carthage and just the idea that they're such a terrifying weapon of war. It's why like
they're
North
pretty
Africa,
cool though.
Well, it's why North Africa doesn't have any elephants. Like
Is it
nobody
really?
ever thinks about that, but like why does the entire continent have elephants except for like that one place? It's because Rome was there. And they literally killed the elephant population.
They're like, nope, they're
I
ours.
will look it up right now on my iPad because I am 95% sure that is a thing that happened.
So while you're looking that up, we're gonna go to the climax of the film here. We have the fight that's really not fair.
Yeah.
Commodus stabs Maximus in the kidneys, or as closely to the kidneys as he can.
The North African elephant is an extinct subspecies of the African bush elephant, or possibly a separate elephant species that existed in North Africa until it died out in Roman times. You want to know why? Because nothing dies out from coincidence in Rome. Okay, Rome kills it.
Rome kills it.
There is no coincidental death of species or countries. All right, Rome did it.
So it's just barbarians and elephants.
Exactly.
Just it's
salt the earth, baby.
Salt on the earth.
Salt the earth.
So so we get to this.
They killed 3,500 elephants in the games held by Emperor Augustus.
While you have that up,
yes.
Another thing.
Okay.
So they're talking about killing senators.
Yeah.
Or they're showing how they're going to kill all the senators
right.
as we're building up to this final fight between the two of them. And they have a specific snake.
Oh, yeah.
What type of snake is that?
I have no idea. So, okay, nobody. I don't want to say nobody. You don't poison people with snakes. Like it's not.
You never
thing.
know. That's what I was thinking. Is like that snake. That snake could
sure,
just
like,
curl up in the bed, and you wouldn't know.
I can't promise they didn't. But like, you have hemlock. You have big ass Praetorian guards with daggers. You have construction acts. It's Rome. You have the plague. Like nobody's gonna ask why the 60-year-old senator died. They're thinking he has like 1 foot in the grave anyway. He's freaking 60 years old, or like something like that.
Twice the life expectancy.
Yeah. Also, side note: Marcus Aurelius is way too old. He dies at like 55 or 60.
He does look pretty decrepit.
And he's like a military leader. Yeah. So, I mean, I respect to Richard Harris. The dude acted his ass off. But, like, I don't know. Like, George Clooney probably would have been a better pick in terms of, like, Like, today's George Clooney would have looked like what you assume he would look like. Like, old but fit, you know?
He's too suave. He wouldn't make
no, he wouldn't. But I just mean that body type. Like, you're super buff, like, grandpa who still lifts weights.
Yeah.
Who could die of a heart attack next week. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that dude.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so if anyone knows what type of snake that is that they put into the bed,
it's probably an asp. Would be my guess. That's like the classic Cleopatra snake. That's like apparently we didn't think any other venomous snake existed.
Orange, black, yellow stripes.
Yeah. And like senators definitely get killed during Roman times. I can't even promise the Commodus didn't kill a few. He probably did, but it's worth noting that the Roman Senate lasts longer than the Roman Empire.
Interesting.
So it's not something that anybody ever.
So not all the senators died all at once, at least.
No, well, and it's not something nobody ever seriously considers getting rid of it because why would you? Because it's powerless.
Powerless.
Like you're the emperor. What? Keep the rich people fed. You know, like who cares?
Yeah.
Like let them think they have power. They're less of a issue that way. But yeah, so just a fun fact is that Rome imported animals en masse, right? So they wouldn't have just had like 5 tigers in the Colosseum. There's a very good chance that they had like dozens and dozens and dozens
Yeah.
at any given time.
Mm.
But they
Or-
only imported them for like games. So it's the Colosseum doesn't run all the time, right? It's not like
Right,
a
it's an event.
constant. Yeah. So Julius Caesar, for example, like when he takes over as dictator of Rome, 180 years, well, 220 years before this happens, he like personally funds like 2 weeks of games out of his own pocket. So he's paying for food, gladiators, animals, like decorations, the whole
Sounds
shebang.
expensive.
So that's what when they're talking about Commodus being clever, throwing the games and distracting the people, that's the thing that
Yeah.
people did all the time.
Yeah.
Is other people are upset. Oh, let's kill some people in the Colosseum. Everybody likes that.
So there's a part where for Commodus to gain approval of the people, he's
Mhm.
throwing bread.
Yeah.
People are throwing bread into the crowd, and apparently they used to also throw snakes as pranks,
Oh.
which I thought was interesting. Not like poisonous snakes.
No, but yeah, that'd
but
be fun.
Could
Think
you
you're gonna get-
imagine someone throw it like I like to imagine like modern day. You know how you have the T-shirt guns?
Yeah.
Just load a snake in there.
I'd like to imagine that like you're a starving peasant and you literally just came for the bread, knowing that the emperor throws bread and you're the poor bastard who gets a snake.
Yeah.
Like I would just jump in the river.
Well, you got a pet snake now.
I'd be done. I'd be like, all right, sew me into a sack of badgers
Raise
and chuck
it.
me in the river.
Train it.
Raise it and train it. Brother,
Show it how to hunt.
I'm 25 years old, man. In Rome, I've got like 5-6 good years left. Man, I don't have time to train a freaking snake.
I ain't gonna train no snake.
I don't have time to train a legless hobo.
So the fight at the end,
Yeah.
you know, it's not the show that we got earlier
Well,
with
no,
some of the
'cause,
other
like,
gladiator fights.
He's
It's just
bleeding out of his lung.
Exactly. but there's an intimacy to the end.
Yeah.
And there's a look of horror on Commodus's face right at the end where he's like, it all kind of makes sense, and I almost feel like he accepts himself as the villain and he understands this is what had to happen.
Yeah, I think okay, so like I think movie Commodus legitimately thinks he's a good guy,
Right.
and then he realizes when he gets stabbed that he isn't.
The best antagonists think they're the protagonists.
Yeah, because most of the theme of the movie is that he's so misunderstood and he's
Right.
so unloved, and
Yeah.
like why won't people just listen to me?
Mhm.
Because I'm an ambitious guy, and that should be good enough.
Yeah.
Real life Commodus is actually killed by a gladiator. Fun fact.
Really?
Yeah. Not at all like in the movie, but real life Commodus.
Not in not in a
No,
gladiator
no.
fight.
Well, here I'll get. So OG Commodus is a pretty he's not great, but he's a competent sword fighter, and from what we can understand, the dude is jacked. Like credit where credit is due.
Okay.
Like he's a big, muscly, physical guy. So much so that he literally thinks that he is the descendant of the Roman god Hercules.
Wow.
He isn't, obviously, but he would fight in the arena wearing a lion skin cape, just like Hercules does in the legends. Except he's the emperor, so he fights against guys with dulled swords.
That doesn't seem fair.
He doesn't use a dulled sword, but they do. And it
Damn.
was actually not received well. Like, you would think that would be a cool thing, but everybody was like, that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like, you are the emperor. You are like the god's representation of man. Why are you in the sand at the Colosseum fighting, Jurgen from the Germanic tribes?
So did it kind of just look like an ego?
Oh, it
type
totally
thing?
did. That's not the point
Yeah.
of the games. The games are to entertain the crowd, right? Not to stroke the emperor's ego.
Right.
It's like, it would be like if the United States president wanted to be the quarterback of an NFL game and made a bunch of Bush League college players play against like the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I'm sure people kind of sort of thought it was cool at first, but then it's pretty obvious when a guy has a dulled sword because
Yeah.
there's no way he got out of there without getting whacked once or twice. And they're like, oh, he's not bleeding. Oh, wait, it's because the sword's not sharp.
It's because his skin is so strong.
Yeah, because he's Hercules. But anyway, Mr. I Think I'm Hercules actually gets drowned naked in the bathtub by a gladiator.
Nice.
Yep.
That's
As an assassination hit.
that's
he's-
less cool.
Yep.
As dying by hand of Maximus.
It is less cool, but it fits him better, honestly. Like, he deserves that more.
Yeah.
And then the guy who takes over after him begins the year of the 5 emperors, which isn't because they were all really good dudes and they all decided to rule. It's because 5 people had a civil war in Rome, like one after another.
Nice.
Yeah.
That works. So so to wrap it up, that we have Commodus dies, and then our hero Maximus dies.
Yeah.
But
Sad.
but waiting for him on the other side is exactly what he wanted when Marcus Aurelius asked him at the beginning of the film. He says,
Yep.
"What do you want?" He wanted his family. He
Yeah.
wanted to go home,
Mhm.
and that's what he got. Happy ending.
Yeah.
Even though it's kind of sad.
And
but-
that really, from what I understand, so the Romans aren't super duper religious people, but they do believe in like their pantheon of gods, which are just kind of like the diet version of the Greek gods.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe in Elysium, which he mentions early in the film when he says, if you find yourself alone riding through a grassy field with the sun on your face, then, relax because you're in Elysium and you're already dead. Elysium is Roman heaven.
Oh.
And you get there by being a good person. It's not like a Valhalla thing where you get there by being a good warrior. Like, in theory, anybody can go to Elysium.
Okay.
And so that would have been like real, not real. I don't know what Ridley Scott intended. But if you have like a death hallucination, like a lot of people who have nearly died say you do, and you view whatever your like subconscious idea of the afterlife is, then that would be his. Is that you
Right.
get to reunited with your family in this paradise sort of deal.
I mean, it doesn't sound like a bad deal there.
Yeah, where you do whatever your favorite thing is. And so if his favorite thing is farming with his family, then that would be his Elysium. Yeah.
So I think, and this just popped into my head, I think what we should do to wrap this up is I'll give it a rating on how much I like the movie.
Okay.
We can do that, and then we can also do how accurate was it.
Yeah.
So do we want to do out of 10?
Yeah, let's do out of 10.
So out of 10, okay.
Our first podcast with absolutely no relation to any other rating we're going to
give. Okay, so just how much you enjoyed the movie. Maybe unpopular opinion, but I mean, it's good. I don't think it's as good as a lot of people try to say. I really think Maximus just being this so perfect in what you would call like a white meat baby face is what you would call.
He's super like turn of the millennium like
Superman.
hero. Like
Yeah,
he's like very typical like 2000s like good guy.
Never done anything wrong. The whole world around him is just
he has unlimited power and he refuses to use it. He's like Luke Skywalker but with a gladius.
He becomes betrayed, or he's been betrayed so many times, and yet he stays loyal to
of course he does.
Rome.
To the cause.
To Rome.
To the cause.
Yeah.
Can we also talk about all those gladiators selflessly sacrificing themselves for this guy they'd known for like 7.5 minutes?
Right.
For no freaking reason.
Absolutely not.
Like if there's a decent chance they were going to kill everybody. If you thought they were going to kill you anyway, sure. Yeah, 100%. But I seriously doubt anybody in that gladiator school would have been like, this Spanish guy who's so much better at fighting than we are. Sure, I'll die for him.
Yeah. So he can escape and then just get captured
because
immediately.
we, as prisoners of Rome, care so much about the Roman Republic and this Roman general.
So
they'd have fragged him in his sleep.
I mean, everything is done super well. It's just I almost feel like the story itself is just a little too Hollywood for me.
It's both too long and too short, I think.
Like I really an awkward length.
I think it's great. I give it like an 8 out of 10. But it's one of those. I think it's one of those movies that even though it's good, you're disappointed, and it's because you either want less or you want more.
Yeah.
Like I either want less like philosophy, or I want like a deep dive into like why Commodus is the way he is, and like why, or like Maximus's past. But it's really good. I mean, I give it an 8 out of 10. Enjoyment wise, historically, I have 3 ratings. So the world, like how he built the world, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I'm not a Roman historian. I'm sure there's details that you could pick apart, but like, I don't feel bad or irresponsible as a historian telling people like, generally that is what Rome looked like.
Yeah.
Sure. 100%. Situationally, so like the Marcomanni War and just the general vibe of like the political situation, I'm going to give that a 6.
Okay.
It's fine. It's not bad, but like Marcus Aurelius is not some old, like regretful dude. Like he, up until he dies, is very much the leader of Rome. And there is no question. Like he's a warrior general scholar. Like he is the epitome of the badass guy who rules the empire. The Marcomanni War is good, I think. Not an expert on Roman battle tactics. I don't like that the barbarians don't have armor. There's this like misconception that people don't know how to make metal outside of Rome.
What is this stuff?
And
you couldn't take it off a soldier.
Right.
Like
I will say there is, if you look closely, there are a couple of like Roman shields in the barbarian ranks, which implies that they've been fighting for a long time.
Interesting.
That's a nice like little directorial snippet. It's not Ridley Scott's fault. Like everybody does that. It's very much like these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. But like the barbarians had armor and battle formations. Like they knew their shit. They just
watched
weren't
Conan
Rome.
Barbarian and we were like, no, they don't have it.
Yeah.
Just long hair.
And part of the reason I rate it a 6 is because the Roman legion was that nasty. And you could take 5,000 Roman legionaries and defeat like 10 or 15,000 barbarians just by their discipline and their fighting style.
Yeah.
So 100%. And then character-wise, and I'm going to caveat this with I love every character in Gladiator, that's like a 3. Because like I said, Commodus is a bad dude, but nowhere in the same realm of bad dude that he is in the movie.
Okay.
Marcus Aurelius, I've discussed. Rip Richard Harris, great actor, great character. not a great portrayal of Marcus Aurelius. Though he is a stoic philosopher. That was kind of a cool tidbit.
Yeah.
The Senate was never going to bring back the Republic. Like, that's not a thing that was ever considered. The Senate wasn't that big of a threat to the Roman Emperor, generally speaking. Not at this time. 100 years later, 100%. But, like, Commodus inherits a freaking M1 Abrams tank of an empire. Like, there's no reason that the Senate would just immediately be like, oh, yeah, kill him. That'd be better.
Just take it.
Like, you have to be a really bad Roman emperor for people to think that killing you is a better answer than just letting you do your thing. So, like, overall historical rating, I don't know if I can posit those together. I'll give it like a 6.5, a 7. It's by no means bad, but don't watch it and think you know a lot about, like...
That makes sense.
Like, you've learned something about Rome, but it's not like Fury or Saving Private Ryan or other movies that we'll get into later.
We'll get to those, yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those solid, like, you're not being lied to, but
Yeah.
you're being given, like, a very, very, very fictionalized version of Rome and, like, the people in it. Yeah.
And I think for my rating, just for enjoyment, which after you just explained so many different caveats and everything,
Yeah.
sounds pretty lame, but I'm going to say it anyways. I'm going to do a 7.
Okay.
I'm going to go a 7
All
on
right.
that one.
I respect it. It's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to convince you to watch Kingdom of Heaven, and I don't know if you'll like it more or less, but it's also by Ridley Scott.
I don't know. We'll watch it, though.
We'll have to watch the director's cut because it is way better than the original movie.
Director's cut, yep. So
Yep.
we'll get to that.
What's our next episode? Do we know so we can tell people?
Our next episode...
Oh, is it Braveheart? Is that what we're doing? Was that what we decided?
Is freedom.
Yeah. Oh my God, man, guys, my hate fire burns deep for Braveheart.
Yeah,
it's great,
and it's gonna be a first time watch for me.
Yeah, and like if you're on social media, you've kind of learned how bad this movie is, but I hope you're ready because we're trying to do a balancing act where we pick like a decent movie so that I'm not always trashing the movies.
Right.
Oh man, I'm going to bully Braveheart. I'm going to be the 13 reasons for Braveheart. All right.
Damn.
Yeah. Oh, I'm ready.
I'm ready
so
for
ready.
it.
I'm coming for you, Mel Gibson. Open a history book, dude. I know you can read.
We're pretty sure.
I think. You're from Australia. They're a pretty developed country. They rate higher than we... Look, if I'm a hick from Missouri and I could read, you could pick up a book and read about William Wallace, my guy.
Sound it out, buddy. Sound it out.
Oh, and if you think I'm heated now, this is not even Braveheart week. This is just me thinking about Braveheart week.
Well, so we have that for next week. Look forward to it. Kyle's heated. His face is red. And we'll be back. All right.
See ya.